All right, we're back here at the booth broadcasting live from the City of Champions. As you can see, my guys are on here. Robert Resnick, Ken Diesel, and Erik Young, CEO, founder, and inventor of AUDIOS. I had some problems there with Zoom. Rebooted up. I am praying to God that Zoom does not crash again. Hopefully we can get through this. I had my COVID shot yesterday, so I'm a little under the weather, just a little sore. But I definitely want to make sure that we get this show out here in the way that it's supposed to go. And I want to start off this verdict. I'm going to let R Squared start off and talk about this verdict. Guilty, Derek Chauvin, all three counts. I'm surprised at the fact that he received guilty on all three counts. I thought he was going to get that single one of third degree, but this one was right across the board. So I'm going to let you start off first, R Squared.
Yeah, I was very pleased to see the verdict, and it didn't come as much of a surprise to me because I was able to watch most of the trial. I didn't see every minute of it, but I was able to see a lot of it. And during the course of the time, I saw that the prosecution presented an incredibly powerful case. And, obviously you're stuck with the evidence that you have. You can't invent it. And so, sometimes you don't have the strongest case and you have to do the best you can. Other times there's an investigation, there's evidence, there are witnesses, there's what have you. In this case, there was that very powerful video. And I think that the more that they talked about it, the more that made the jury in line with the prosecution's theory of the case. I think the defense did a very good and credible job with what they had to work with. This was always going to be about causation. I think they wasted some time talking about trying to defend his tactics or his use of force, the classic attack on the angry, dangerous black man, which is just that's not going to continue to work because our society is evolving past that. So that was a mistake. But they made excellent arguments on causation, and that gave me pause for a while because all it takes is one juror to have reasonable doubt. And when they really went through that issue on causation and some of the other medical evidence, I was wondering whether or not that would resonate with at least one juror. I'm glad to see that it did not. And so when the verdict came in, obviously they start with the greatest charge, which is the second-degree murder charge. And when that was a guilty, then obviously the other ones were going to be guilty because those were lesser charges of the second-degree murder. So once he was found guilty of the most serious of the charges, then the fact that he was found guilty of the others was logical and easy to see. He won't stand convicted of all three. He'll be sentenced on the greatest of charges because it's the same thing. It's the same act. And so under double jeopardy in the Constitution, he won't actually stand convicted of all three charges. But for right now, he was convicted by the jury. And that'll be meaningful because if there's any appellate issues, if there's any issues for the appellate court to negate the greater offense, he's still found guilty then of the lesser offense. So it'll be interesting to see how the judge does his sentencing. One of the things that Chauvin did on Monday, and the judge alluded to it at the end today, was he waived his right to have a jury hear his sentencing factors. And he's having the judge hear. That was probably a smart move because the jury obviously has convicted him of murder and they're not going to be susceptible. The judge is going to apply the law. So this will be an entirely judge-done sentencing. And I'm more interested now, obviously, in what the judge does for sentencing because there's obviously with the second-degree murder charge, he can go away for a long time, what could be effectively the rest of his life for all intents and purposes. So, and it wouldn't, to me, that's justified, quite frankly. But, we'll see what he gets. We'll see, the defense has a job to do now, probably the most important job it has, which is try to mitigate his punishment. And I'm sure they're going to have something to put forth. They've been preparing for this, knowing there was a great chance that he would be convicted of at least something and they would get to a sentencing hearing. So to wrap up my thoughts on this, I think that the prosecution did an incredibly good job. I was very impressed with them. And I think the defense did a good job. I don't think his closing was as strong as it could be, but at the same time, this case was proven. And that's what really has to happen. You have to prove these cases. Beyond a reasonable doubt really means something. And it's not hard for one juror on any given jury to be hung up on a particular element And if that's true, as the judge instructs and as the law requires, then they can't convict. So I think that's a credit to the investigation, to the witnesses who came forward and gave their powerful testimony. Obviously, that video was key to this thing, because there's no denying that. You can't watch that video and then believe that anything else caused the death of George Floyd other than Mr. Chauvin. So I was pleased with it. I think the council should be proud of themselves. I don't believe in celebrating verdicts, because obviously this whole thing remains to be a tragedy, and it's only one step and a huge step that we need to take forward to fix the problems in our system. But this is a huge step forward. This is equivalent of the moon landing. So I'm pleased to see it.
And it's putting a lot of cops on notice. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, my man Erik Young, CEO, founder, and inventor of AUDIOS, he's back on here because he's going to be closing this out at April 30th. People have that chance to get that $100 down, so we wanted to bring him on tonight to talk about the importance of really getting in there real quick. But I really want him as a black man to speak on this, because this case touched almost every black man in America, and this is a huge step in the right direction, as R Squared said. This is big. This is putting a lot of bad cops on notice. I'm going to let you just get right into it and just plug your business, man, and the importance of why people need to get in before April 30th.
Oh, yeah. So the fundraising round ends on April 30th. Just like 10 days left. We're over $500,000. And AUDIOS is really going to make some real huge changes to the professional audio market. So, I mean, I don't want to really, I kind of think we are talking about George Floyd, but yeah, so just, hey, if you're interested, you want to learn more, just go to republic.co/AUDIOS. And I think we'll get right back to the George Floyd discussion.
Well, give me your thoughts, man, because I know, as a black man, you got to feel it, and you got to feel
it.
Yeah,
so as a black man, I remember the morning. So when initially, I think I want to talk about my perspective. So when it initially happened, I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth, and then I get a notification. So in my mind, I was like, oh, another black dude just got killed. Or I actually didn't know he was going to die. So I was watching it. It was sitting on the countertop, and I'm watching it, and I was just thinking, I was like, man, he's going to take his foot off his neck. And I'm still brushing my teeth, getting ready for work. And I was like, he's not going to take his foot off his neck. So then I'm starting to get angrier and angrier. And then when I saw that he urinated, I knew that he was definitely dead at that point. And then I saw them pick him up. And when I tell you, I had a rage in me. I felt a rage that I haven't felt in years. I was hyperventilating. I was so angry. I was so enraged that I had to check out of social media for a while. And so I think this is a good day, but I'm still pessimistic. I think Robert covered the case really well. He gave a breakdown, but in order to get a conviction, it has to be that graphic. Because what I know, a lot of people, especially where I grew up, a lot of people may not understand my background, but I know a lot of people that have been killed and they won't get that justice, right? It won't be on film. So I don't think that it's the moon landing, with all due respect, Robert. I think that that was what was supposed to happen, right? So I think the moon landing is when someone gets convicted and it's not on tape, and the guy and the evidence is weak, and the prosecution did a bad job. To me, that's a moon landing, right? But right now, what you're saying is the opposite. Everything was aligned. We had graphic videotape. It was evident. The prosecution did an amazing job. The jurors were competent. You understand? All of these things had to happen. So that's my 2 cents.
No, we want to be able to get everybody's opinion. Like I said, I think it's a huge step in the right direction, as Robert said, because it's one of those things where we've been fighting this for a long time. We've seen it time and time again. I don't think we're really going to see the impact of this verdict until, like we said, I think it's 6 weeks is when they're going to come out and they're going to sentence him. So we got another big step there. If they go the way that Rob just said, it's going to be a big deal for bad cops. This right here for me is really putting bad cops on notice. And again, I've joked about this time and time again about we have become Big Brother because of us with our cell phones. we have truly become big brother, and this case says it right now. Ken, you're a defense attorney. Speak on this from being a defense attorney and working with people who are usually in his situation where he was the bad guy. Because one of the things that I had talked about was that when the defense opened up their opening statements, the first thing they did was they brought up his past record. And I was like, that is the worst thing to do, because his past record don't mean crap to the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that was on his neck. It don't matter.
That's where you're wrong. And I think what's important to understand is we crossed the Rubicon on this. If you remember the Rodney King tape in 1992, that they put Rodney King on trial and they won. And this has been the game plan for cops in excessive force cases, especially when there has been a death. And it's always worked. They've been unquestionably successful. This is the first time that the jury has said, we don't care what the victim was doing. What he was doing was not a capital offense. So I think this is a major point, and I think Mr. Young's point about when there's a conviction on a video is very, very on point, but got to walk before you run. This is the first time we put the victim on trial and the jury says, we don't care. And that's the important thing that we need to understand. The prosecution got it right. They did it by the freaking numbers. This is what we like to, as we say. They did it right. They came in there with their evidence, with their experts. And as Robert pointed out, they clearly show the relationship between the action of the defendant and the results, naming the death of this individual. And I think the fact that we've hit critical mass with regarding to excessive force used by police officers. And I think this is going to scare a lot of police officers because they're not going to be able to say, oh, we were scared. Oh, we thought he was going to harm us. Blah, blah, blah. All the excuses they've been using for the past 120 years just went out the window. And I also want to say something very important. The prosecution was smart. They did a great job of putting this case, and they did an excellent job of trying to ratchet down all the things that everybody's trying to ratchet up. They didn't make this about race. They didn't make it about a white cop and a black defendant. They didn't make it about excessive police brutality. Somebody said, hey, that was a human being over there. He got his neck crushed by another human being. And that's the only thing we're going to concentrate on. And that's the important thing. And right now, if I'm from a defense counsel point of view, I think everybody who's defending cops accused of excessive force, they need to go back to school because boys, girls, others, the game has changed.
Well, one of the things that hit me hard, and Harry Green just put in the chat, Harry Green said, if he appeals it, do you think it will not be aired? So if he is found guilty, it will stop the riots. Well, he's already been found guilty. We're headed to sentencing right now. So an appeal is definitely going to be, it's going to happen. I mean, we knew the Boston bomber was going to appeal when he was found guilty. We knew the bomber his defense was going to appeal right away. So whatever he gets on this sentencing in 6 weeks, I'm pretty sure they're going to draw together an appeal process, which is, as Oscar had said, he has every right to. But I don't think there'll be any rioting or anything of that sort.
No, but here's the thing. If I may, and this is the problem people don't understand about an appeal, and Rob can back me up on this. When you appeal a verdict, you cannot appeal the facts in the underlying case, only the law. Unless the judge made a mistake of law that caused reversible error, the verdict is going to be upheld. And I really don't see where they're going to get that issue of law to be overturned. It clearly meets the legal standard based on the facts presented for a manslaughter conviction. That's number one. I don't think there's any problems with the jury selection, although I didn't watch it. Rob, maybe you can give it. Was any of the jurors improperly excluded? I don't think so.
No.
Was there any type of undue influence from the jurors? Did they read a publication or do something else when they wouldn't?
The one juror who got the text from the mother-in-law about the Maxine Waters comment, that was the only one thing that almost derailed this whole
yes, but
case.
The judge made a curative instruction, and I think, and most appellate courts rely heavily on curative instructions, although I personally think they're worthless. But there's an incredible amount of jurisprudence and precedent on curative instruction, so that doesn't happen. So I don't see this verdict being overturned. Yes, there's going to be an appeal, and there should be an appeal. This is why you have a lot of faith in the judicial system, because we're always double checking and triple checking our work. So, I mean, I think it's more important is what he gets for a sentence. I think that's going to be a major issue. I was shocked that they got a guilty verdict. I was expecting not guilty. I really was. And I'm going to be very surprised if this results in a lengthy prison time. I think he's going to get a time served or a very short prison time of under 2 years.
Wow, really?
I don't. They're not going to put a cop behind bars, because cops in prisons don't do well. And I think that's going to be a major factor. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to hammer that point home, that the cops don't, that he's being punished not for the manslaughter, but for being a cop, and because of publicity. And they're going to say, look, it's regrettable. I'm sorry, but adding another body to the pile isn't going to bring George Floyd back.
Yeah, but you guys are talking about manslaughter. He was convicted of second-degree murder, and he's going to get sentenced a heck of a lot more than 2 years because he was convicted of the greatest offense. He wasn't convicted of just manslaughter. If this was a manslaughter case, I would agree with you. He was convicted of second-degree murder, and that's what he's going to be sentenced for. He won't get as much time as people want. I'm sure that's true. People will want to see him maxed out for what he did, and that may not happen because, we don't know what's going to be presented yet. But in 6 weeks we'll know, and I think then you'll get the final public reaction to that. When the appeal happens in 2 years, people will pay attention to it because this case is still going to be well known. It won't have the attention that it has today, so people will react to it. But I think that it'll be a different type of reaction. From watching the trial, you asked me this question. I don't believe, I've done a lot of appellate work. I don't believe that I see a reversible error. I'm not a Minnesota lawyer, and I'm certainly not privy to what the Minnesota appellate court is going to say. But I personally did not observe something that I think would be reversible error that would overturn this conviction. That said, I can tell you that the parties themselves have acknowledged that there are or were hundreds of objections and evidentiary rulings that will be preserved for appeal. And, it's entirely possible that one of those will have legs in a purely esoteric legal manner. And you don't know what an appellate court's going to think about because, like you say, Ken, they're not going to be reviewing the facts of the case. They're not going to be reviewing the trial per se. They're going to strictly be looking at a legal issue. And what does the law say? What does precedent say? What do they have to do if, in fact, the judge made an error? Now, even if the judge made an error, it doesn't mean it's going to be a reversible error or get relief for Derek Chauvin. But, but there are going to be hundreds of issues considered for appeal, and you never know if something sticks or not. But again, I don't think that there's reversible error that has been committed in this case. I do believe the convictions will stand, and therefore Derek Chauvin will remain convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced by what the judge does in 6 weeks. That's why I'm so intrigued by that. If I could circle back to the point that I was making earlier, was such that when you want to have a huge change of some kind, when you want to achieve something critically important, then you have to have a public event. You have to have something that changes the dynamic. You have to have society see that it's possible. And that's what my reference was, that the entire American population, whether they watched it live or not, everybody's going to hear about this. This is the story in the news. It has been. You'd have to intentionally hide to not at least know what happened. And so every American is going to at least know. They might not care about the details, but they're going to know that police officer Derek Chauvin was convicted of murder. And I think that is the milestone event that I'm talking about. That, yeah, we could talk about why this was such a special case. In fact, we did. We talked about the video and everything else and the witnesses and all that made it such a powerful case. Everything lined up right. But what the American population is going to know, the people who don't watch the news all day or the people that are just going to hear about it, are going to see a sea change, that it finally happened, that there was a major conviction in one of these cases. And I'm not trying to overstate it, because I know there are going to be some disappointing results still to come, because it doesn't change overnight. But this is a huge milestone in that regard, because it does change the dynamic. And it's not going to happen immediately overnight in 100% of cases, because
Right.
we know that. And we're going to have to watch some of these other cases that we're already aware of. But I do believe that this is that I don't know what phrase I'm looking for, but it's that change that society is going to recognize, where they're going to know that it could happen, and that's an important step.
And I think what Eric is it's still
So
that
what
anger there. So yep, but
no,
but you were
it's not anger. Like it's
Okay.
not anger. What I checked out of social media. I'm saying that this I absolutely I disagree with what you're saying. I believe that when an officer gets convicted for fearing for their lives, now that's huge, right? This was a slam dunk. That's what I'm saying. And also, he's not the first officer to get convicted. Now, I acknowledge that it was highly publicized, but no, this is not progress. Progress is when the laws regarding you fearing for your lives, the deadly force laws are changed. That's when I'll acknowledge that something is really changed. There's a shift when a person has reasonable doubt, right? When a person has reasonable doubt and the officer is still convicted, there was no doubt what happened. There was no doubt, no matter who you are, when you saw what you saw, there was no doubt what happened, right? But yeah, there's no anger. This is just us having a discussion.
No, but there could
here's
easily have been reasonable doubt on the causation issue, because the defense did put forth a lot of effort and evidence on that. And so it would not have surprised me if at least one juror got hung up on it. I'm glad to see that didn't happen.
That's what I'm saying. So reasonable no doubt where 10 jurors are saying, hey, maybe it was justified. That's when, but and I know, we know that this person should not have been murdered. So that's what I'm saying. It's as a Black person, and that's why I'm speaking for people like myself. I think I can't speak for everybody, So I just saying, for me personally, I'll feel like the way that you're describing it, we've made progress when I see those types of convictions. This conviction,
I agree.
This
I agree
conviction
100%.
it's like, all right, cool. He should have been convicted.
Yeah,
but here's the thing.
Wait, let me just finish my point. I agree 100%. The point is that this conviction makes those other harder convictions more possible. That's what I was trying to say.
So,
Go ahead,
so
Ken,
do you think this will roll into now? Because we've got the Kim Potter incident where she mistakenly, and that was, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. She mistakenly pulled her gun instead of a taser. She's hit with a second-degree manslaughter. I mean, this rolls in. Is she a bad cop? I don't think she was a bad cop, but again, it's another issue here where we've seen time and time again.
If you believe she mistook her taser for her firearm for a taser, it turns to one. When I got a lovely bridge in Brooklyn, I'm dying to sell you.
I can't speak for. I am
saying this as a criminal defense attorney. If my client came to me with that defense, I'd throw her out of my office. I said, "Don't try that, because that make you look like an idiot." And if I can say, getting back to a point that Rob made, yes, you're right. He was convicted of second-degree murder, and I should have qualified my statement. I firmly believe they're going to file motions to vacate the top count second-degree murder, and I'm afraid they're going to get it.
Okay, hold on. Let me just pause you right here, because Eric's going to go get on his other call for this meeting that he has for audio. So real quick, give me your all your social media and stuff so we can get you out of here. Oh, you're muted.
It's Mr. Patents on Instagram, MrPatents, and it's by AUDIOS, BUYAUDIOS, so the word audios with an S. Yeah, you can find. I think this is more of a serious topic, so I definitely didn't want to talk about the business opportunity and investment.
Yeah, this is a big moment, man. And as long as you got to mention it, this was a big moment. Even though we had a great discussion, it's a big moment for us. It's like I said, I'm confused right now as to how to feel about it. I just want to get to the 6-week mark, and we can go from there and see what happens with that conviction. But I want to thank you for coming on and speaking with us on this topic, man, because this was great discussion.
All right, yeah, thank you for having me on. Salute to Robert and Ken for your commentary, and you guys have a great day.
All right, take care, man.
Thank you.
All right, the chat is popping, guys. It's really popping, and
I want to hear Ken's answer though, because Ken is a really strong intellect in the law, and I mean that in a serious way. And you were about to say why you think that the second-degree murder charge might not stand. I'd love to hear your theory of that, because I think it will.
Well, here's this is the reason was. One of the most important things you need for a second-degree murder or any murder is the intent angle. Mm-hmm. Manslaughter, you don't. Manslaughter can be a negligence or a gross negligence standard. My problem has always been with this entire case was what was the intent for him to kill? Clearly, he intended to do the actions that he did, and that gets you to the manslaughter. No question about it. They clear that bar.
Yeah, that's easy. That's easy.
But then the intent angle, because in murder, you got to intent to deprive this person of his life, not be stupid, not be an idiot. And that's the problem I'm having with. And granted, I unfortunately, because the work I was doing, didn't have an opportunity to see a lot of the testimony, and I only heard bits and pieces of it. And Rob, I'm going to defer to you because I know you made.
Well, I wish I could share it at the moment. I don't have it, but one of the nice things about being, in the classroom is I spent the beginning of each of my classes while this trial was going on, inviting the students to share their observations. I was asking them to watch what they could, or even if they were reading accounts, was to ask questions. And we had we actually spent an hour sometimes talking about these things. And I gave them the Minnesota statutes, what second-degree murder is, what third-degree murder is, and all that. And I think they do have evidence. Certainly not. I mean, the only thing that they have to show is that was there a basis for the jury's decision on second-degree murder, and there was. And so the appellate court may disagree with it, but they would have to find that there was no rational basis at all to overturn it. And that's where I don't think they could make it. I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's definitely going to be an issue. You're right. I don't know that the appellate court can substitute. They're not supposed to substitute their own judgment for the jury's. They're only supposed to they have to find whether there was a rational basis for the jury to have reached its conclusion on that. And I think that that's enough of a hurdle that the appellate court won't be able to touch it based on my review. I could be wrong. I didn't see every minute of the trial, but that's sort of my starting point.
That's my question. I saw virtually nothing of the trial. So let me ask you this. If you can, give me a thumbnail. What was the facts that would support the intent part of the statute, if you can?
Yeah, I'll just give you a couple because I don't want to monopolize this thing here, but there are a few things. And first of all, you have the video itself. I mean, 9 minutes and 20 seconds is a lot different than 20 seconds, right? And so he had ample time, as they showed in the very beginning of the trial, where they just played it and let people sit there for the 9 minutes of uncomfortable silence. And Derek Chauvin had ample time to realize what he was doing and make an adjustment. And instead, what the video shows is he was cinching it in. He was more firmly placing himself on the neck rather than releasing the pressure on the neck. So the video itself shows that for the 9 minutes and 20 seconds or whatever it wound up being, that he was actually increasing his pressure, not decreasing it. The other thing that you could show is how unnecessary it was. That's why all the use of force experts were critical, because they were all showing that George Floyd by that point had been in complete submission. It didn't matter that he had resisted earlier, because at that point he was cuffed, he was prone, he wasn't moving, he wasn't resisting in any manner whatsoever. Then you have his own pleas about being in distress, which should have triggered something. You had concerns about some of the bystanders. You had concerns about paramedics that were coming on the scene. You had concerns from the 911 operator that called back to say something's wrong here. So all of this evidence, and Chauvin was obviously the single factor. He's like the common denominator. He knew all of these things. And by him insisting on staying there, I think there's enough evidence of intent. It's not premeditation for first-degree murder, although I think you could actually make the argument for it. I did in my classroom to show them how it would work. And I think it was interesting as a concept. But second degree, I definitely think there's evidence for the jury to convict on intent.
I see. So you're arguing that because the time elapsed, if he had taken his knee off right after 30 seconds and you don't think you got the intent, but because he kept it on so long after the police were doing things, that created the intent.
Yeah, when you put it all together in that sequence of events, because you always prove, I mean, you know this as a lawyer, Ken, but for the other listeners, unless somebody confesses, which is not as common as the TV shows make it believe, they're not all Donnie Wahlberg in there. And so they have to prove intent. Prosecution always has to prove intent by circumstantial evidence. You almost always I mean, you almost rarely have an actual confession on that. And so this is one of the strongest circumstantial cases I've seen to prove intent without a confession, of course. And that's why I'm saying that.
Again, this is why it's so important to see the entire trial, because up until you mentioned those things, I was not aware they existed. Unfortunately, I was getting snippets.
Yeah, well, you had to be in court, and I got the luxury of watching most of it. So I'm very, I mean, it was an awful thing, and it wasn't even fun to watch. But I'm pleased that I was able to, because it was professionally edifying for me, and I was able to talk to my students about it in a way that they really appreciated, and it helped me to understand all the evidence too, to see it that way. There were things I would have done differently on both sides, more so the defense, but. I think that, the prosecution lived up to its promises, and they went faster than expected. The defense was much faster than expected because they realized they had to give up a couple of things, and Chauvin wasn't going to testify, which was the smartest thing they did. But so the whole trial went much faster than expected, including the deliberations. So I think there's a lot of positives for the justices. And this is the point I wanted to make earlier, too. I don't think Erik understood because, he doesn't have the background that we have. So we kind of speak in shorthand, the three of us, but he didn't pick up on this. But my point was that this case is not really about Floyd and Chauvin, although it is. This case is about the justice system. This case is about the rule of law. And so when people were already preparing to protest the verdict before they ever heard it, I found that problematic, because what we're supposed to be fighting for is the rule of law and the justice system. And when the jury started to deliberate, every pundit that I saw said, wow, this was an amazing trial. It was a fair trial. It was a properly conducted trial. The judge gave proper rulings. The defense did its job incredibly well. The prosecution did its job incredibly well. It doesn't mean we all wouldn't have done something a little differently. There are a million ways to prosecute or defend a case. But the fact is, no matter what we would have done differently or wished they had done differently, they did an amazing job on both sides, I think. And so, if in fact a juror had gotten hung up on a causation element or something like that, which I thought was entirely possible, then, that wouldn't have been, it would have been a travesty in the sense of we all know Chauvin is guilty of these offenses, but that's the way the system is supposed to work. And I don't know I think there would have been a really bad result. Maxine Waters was already there ready to protest, but, and so the problem is when you start telling people that the judge of justice is whether somebody is convicted, that's the wrong answer. It's whether the trial was done properly. And each of those jurors, obviously they did a great job protecting their identities, which I think is important. But, they paid attention. They obviously got to the right result by far, definitely the right result. But what if they didn't? What if they were talking in the deliberation room and there was a legitimate issue? As the judge said, if you believe that the evidence is that there's proof beyond a reasonable doubt, then the fair thing to do is convict. If you think that there's not evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, then the fair thing to do is not to convict. That's a paraphrase, but that's kind of what he gave in his final instruction. And that's what a fair trial is about. And so I don't want people to walk because the jury nullifies the police officer's behavior, which we've seen before. That's a travesty. But when a jury gets a fair, well-tried case in front of it, then that's the right answer. And so I'm thrilled that it went this way. But if he had been acquitted, or even if it was a hung jury and there was violence in the streets around the country tonight, that would have been a bigger travesty.
Yeah, wow, great stuff, guys. Great stuff to have you guys on for this first half hour. Ken, is there anything you want to add to this? Because it like I said, I watched this case, and one of the things that they said is that this case changed a lot as to how things should be done. One of the things that I heard today from an analyst, they said they also think the fact that this trial being broadcast all over the internet and social media and TV live made a big difference also. They said there was a lot of things that didn't happen that usually happens in court, but it didn't happen because they brought those cameras into the courtroom. And someone alerted to sometimes these shenanigans that the defense or prosecutors play. Everybody was on camera, and everybody had to be on their P's and Q's. They had to guard their P's and Q's and do everything professionally.
No. Whoever said that's an idiot. First of all,
It was on TV. They were talking about it on TV.
First of all, they're an idiot. Number two, they don't know the history. First of all, trials have been broadcast live for at least 30 years.
They have been, but they said never of this stature. What they're saying is never of this stature.
I disagree. And not only that, trials are done in public for exact same reason that you alluded to, that everyone's got to be on their P's and Q's. Whether they're broadcast, whether you have 100 people, 1 million people, or 2 people. I'm telling you this as a criminal defense attorney. There's, when I do my trials, none of them has been broadcast live. They're not that I don't know what you want to call it. They're important to the people who are trying them, but they're not socially impact. You always got to be careful of what people are going to say or take away from your trial. And you're always careful about that. But I think the important thing that the people don't understand is we crossed the Rubicon about something. The defense has always been about cops, is putting the defendant on trial, and no matter what they did, as long as the defendant was a bad guy, you got away with that. That broke down today.
That's the bigger thing here. The fact that people who are in court on that defense side now have a little bit more to look at.
They got a lot more to look at. If I'm doing a defense case like this, I got to drastically change my game plan, because now I can't rely on what you used to be able to rely on. It's gone. It is gone. You stick a fork in him. He's done.
So I'm going to ask you. So I'm going to ask you guys, from a legal aspect, is this one of these cases where years and years and years from now that they'll refer to as a precedent being set?
Yes. You're going to be looking.
I don't think so, but I guess we'll see. We'll see maybe after the appellate decision comes down if there's any legal issue that gets resolved, such as one of these objections, or whether they sustain the second-degree murder charge, as Ken was talking about, or some of the other issues. Then that might be interesting. I think that the evidence was so powerful and overwhelming in this case that I hope that everything Ken just said is exactly right, because I think that would be the right answer. But I don't know that there aren't still defense teams out there that wouldn't still try it, because it's usually all they have. And, it didn't work in this case because you had that damn video, or that great video, as I should say, because there was no way to show that George Floyd was any threat to those police officers when you watch the video. But excuse me, I think that there are going to be cases where the defense still uses that because it's all they have to try to use that. Well, we were in fear for our lives thing. We had to make a split-second decision. I think you're still going to find aspects of society that are sympathetic to it, that may force them to defend it better, to explain it better, that may not be as quick to support it like they used to be. And maybe you could look to this case as the precedent in that way. But I think it's still out there because, I just think that sometimes that's all they have.
Ken, as a defense attorney, go ahead.
I agree. It's always going to be out there, because sometimes, as Robert said, and you said exactly what I would have said, because sometimes it's the only thing I have. I go with what I have. The old joke is, if you're weak on the law, you argue the facts. If you're weak on the facts, you argue the law. If you're weak on both, you argue like hell. But a couple of things. Yes, we had this great video, but I think, seriously, when you alluded to this earlier in the program, that we've become Big Brother. This isn't 30 years ago where videotapes are, everybody's got a cell phone with a camera. Mm-hmm. There's an incredible amount of surveillance out there between traffic cams and private security cams and everything out there. So you can't go any place without video out there. So this idea that, it'll be different if there's no video. Well, there's always video now. There's now body cams on police officers, which is incredible. Yeah. I'll give you a prime example. I have a case out in Springfield where the body cam is both great and horrible for my guy, because some of the things he's saying are absolutely true, which I thought was complete and utter nonsense, and they're backing it totally up. But there's other things on there that didn't make it in the police report, which the DA is going, oh my God, this and this should have been in the police report. Why didn't you tell us? Type of thing. So it's a double-edged sword. I don't know if it's going to make a big impact or not, but it definitely is. So I think that, yes. And not only that, I think the prosecution should be given incredible kudos about how they did it. And I think this is going to be the game plan going forward on how to prosecute cops. I think everybody's going to look to this prosecution and say, aha, that's how you do it. That's how we're going to do it.
Well, I was very happy that the judge...
You've got me on that one.
The judge actually spanked the Minnesota Police Department for releasing certain videos strategically to try to derail or do whatever they were trying to do. But the judge did spank them on that, and I was very happy. Like I said, I'm real happy at the judge who oversaw this case. He did a great job overseeing this case. He instructed the jurors correctly. They said that his instructions were so good that these jurors never once during the 10 hours had to ask for any questions of the judge. They said he gave such great instructions, explained it so well that they were able to go in and get it done within 10 hours. And that was glad to hear that was done. I know we guys got to get out of here. We got to get a half out, but I want you guys to just real quick before we get out of here. This is going on the other side of the situation here in the body cams. I got to ask this real quick because you brought up body cams, and it's starting to bug me a little bit. All of a sudden now, when we have these type of incidents, police officers and police departments now are releasing body cam footage to either try to exonerate their officers, or for me, I feel like they're doing it to avoid liability, as we saw with Kim Potter and her error. Her error. Everybody was ready to riot. Everybody's throwing it. You're going back and forth with social media, and then all of a sudden the police department releases the body cam, and we see that she made a humongous, grave error. It wasn't a racial thing. It was she pulled her, and like Ken said, it's BS. A lot of cops, Frank Zanowski, a lot of people, cops out there are saying it's BS. So I'm going to listen to a lot of the cops who are telling me it's BS. But then we also have in Chicago, they released the body cam footage within 48 hours of the 13-year-old boy being shot. How do you guys feel on that real quick before I get you guys out of here? I'll start with Ken first as a defense attorney.
Well, the problem is, as a defense attorney, I always want the information out there as soon as possible. I think they should be releasing it. As long as they don't release edited footage. Either release it all or don't release any of it. Don't put out, edited footage. And I think that's important because when you go out there and say, this is the evidence we have, it's a way of de-escalating the situation and also shows a level of transparency. You can argue what that means, but at least it's out there. And it's not going to change over time. So yes, I think they should release it.
I'm going to switch gears with the same question, but I got to ask Squared This, who was in the military, and militaries had body cams for a long time, correct?
Yes.
And with police officers now, they have this situation where we've got this one in Hawaii where they shut the body cam off before and then turned it on after, and now there's this discussion now about turning body cams off as tampering with evidence. Your thoughts on that and the body cam situation?
Yeah, every jurisdiction has its own rules about the body cameras, and for the most part, there's a pretty good consistency in the rules that you can't turn it off. That they're supposed to, they're either supposed to go on automatically when a call comes in, or they're supposed to be on, and so it is an offense to turn them off. Now, it may be obviously a far lesser offense than, let's say, murder. If you do something like that, you may be better off having turned off your camera and getting punished for that, rather than being convicted by the footage. But, but the point is that they'll get used to it, and you'll have fewer people abusing the body cameras because they'll be trained with it from day one in the academies, and that'll just be the way of life, that they're being filmed when they're on official duties at all times, and people will stop turning them off at some point on that. It's interesting, about what you said about releasing the video. I have mixed feelings about it, because I've always believed that an investigation should be private until it's completed, and evidence for a criminal trial should be somewhat protected until it's presented in trial, both to protect the jury, both to avoid being, the case tried in the media. There are all kinds of reasons for that. I understand the value of it, but most of that value is because everybody's, sort of thinking that they're entitled to something, and I don't believe people are entitled to anything. I certainly don't think the media is entitled to anything, prematurely, that is. They're entitled to cover it, but they're not entitled to this, this footage. And so I think we have to be very, very careful about crafting the rule that we think is right, that protects the sanctity of the process more so than anything else. And it may be that involves releasing footage. And then, Ken said unedited footage. And, we talked about this with the lieutenant that was pulled over in Virginia. And I don't agree with everything that Mr. Tatum said on his show, But on his show, he showed the entire video, which the news media never showed. They showed the same tired clips that was very one-sided. And when you look at the entire video that he had on his show, like I said, I don't agree with all of his commentary, but it shows a very different situation as to how it developed in the first place and how they conducted themselves in a more broader perspective. I still think there's some criticism there, but it's not quite the same thing as those bits and pieces that were being shown all over the media. So, that these things are good and bad. You just have to, kind of play it out, I guess. And I think there just needs to be a very deliberate policy that takes into account the sanctity of the process first and foremost.
It has to be across the board. Training has to be done correctly. Like I said, with this whole thing with the Kim Potter incident, the police chief in that situation also stepped down in the Brooklyn Center, and I felt maybe that's because she wasn't trained properly in the use of the taser, which is why that's why he stepped down. That chief, I don't know. Like I said, a lot of cops out there were saying there's no way in hell that mistake should have been made. A lot of cops.
I've heard that. Nobody seems to believe that. The only thing that I would say, and I'm not going to disagree with all the police officers that are trained and know how unlikely that would be. I would just say that when you watch the video, her reaction seems to be fairly genuine. So that's the one thing that cuts in her favor. Now, either way, even if her story is true, it's still manslaughter.
Right.
And in that case, you don't have the same circumstantial evidence of intent for second-degree murder or third-degree murder that you might have, like we had for Derek Chauvin. So everybody's now going to compare that case to this one, and they're not the same. They're very different cases. But people are going to compare them, and they're going to say And so I still think that there's a very strong manslaughter case against her if that's what they decide to do. But I don't think she's anything like Derek Chauvin, and I don't think that the fact patterns are the same.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff in that video that was just it was a tough watch, real tough watch. But hey, guys, we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank you guys for coming on. I love the fact that I can hit these guys up when something like this happens and get these guys right on here. I wouldn't want to do this with anybody else but these two guys when we have something of this sort. Other than that, R-Squared, did you see Godzilla vs. Kong yet, or are you still waiting to get your second shot?
Not yet. I get my second shot tomorrow, and then assuming, in about a week or so that it's still in the theaters, I think I might go see it in the theater. So,
we got a lot of people in chat. Kevin Jeffries, yep, she's been on the force for 26 years. Viana Marie says she was trained for years. There's no excuse. Stop the bleeding hot BS and hold her accountable. You know what? And she's probably going to be held accountable. We're going to have all eyes watching this one here.
Oh, she is. It's going to be a manslaughter case. I mean,
yeah. I don't think we might not see the coverage like we saw this one, but there will definitely be coverage on this one. And real quick, Square, you teach. Can you talk what you teach? And you've had some great cases to discuss with your kids in these last 2 or 3 years. You've had some. This has been amazing for you. Real quick, what has it been like with your students?
It's been interesting. I'm sorry, Ken. Did you want to say anything before?
No, I just want to say goodbye to everyone. I got to get going. I'm terribly sorry. Great show, but I got to get going.
No problem. Thanks for coming on, Ken. All right.
I'll just answer the question. It's been great, and I guess for good or bad, there are always going to be cases out there of one nature or another. But yeah, I begin each of my class sessions in every class I teach with requiring the students to tell me what they're seeing in the real world or even on social media or pop culture or something like that, because the textbook is only so good. And when you can look at something that's really going on, whether it's a storyline on a show or a case like this, then we can talk about it each time. And I find it's far more valuable. So some of the students are paying attention. They're enjoying the conversation. Some of them are zoning out and they're not paying attention to to any of it. But, so it's interesting. So, that's always going to be true. And you try to reward the ones that are paying attention and trying to learn from these things. The other piece of it is, they're supposed to go out and find some of these cases. So some of them find cases that I haven't yet seen that we can talk about, which is good. But they're great illustrations, to break them down, because you take the clip that you see in the news, let's say, and then we say, okay, we all know that you need all the facts before you can make an opinion, before you can start, prosecuting or defending or whatever else. And we really try to break down, what do we know? What questions do we need to answer? If we make assumptions about those answers, what would we then do about it? For charges, for trial strategy, for defense strategy, for punishment, all these different things. And I think it's very helpful for them, to be able to walk through these actual cases. So I've enjoyed that aspect of it. And like I said, there's, for better or worse, no shortage of examples out there in the real world.
Yeah, I'm like a teacher's pet, man, because I know if I was in your class in these cases and we were discussing these real-time, real-life cases as they happen, I think I would be at the top of that class, man. I'd be ready to go to your class every day just to break this down.
Some of them are very motivated. I will say this, though, because the problem is that they're obviously human beings first, and they should be, and they're young, right? They're 18, 19, 20, 21, I guess. Undergraduate students for the most part. I teach some graduate classes, but those aren't the ones where we do this. And, they're full of emotion. They're full of anger. They're full of frustration. I teach, I guess I didn't say this before, or at least not tonight, but the majority of my students are students of color. I teach in a majority minority school. So I'm the minority in my school. And so I have a lot of students, obviously they're students of color, but many of them come from different backgrounds, including the neighborhoods where a lot of this violence is, that they've been exposed to it much of their lives. And so when a case like this happens, they're angry about it. And I would never tell them that they shouldn't be, because I get the frustration of the individual case, and I get the frustration of the ongoing problems with our system, whether it's law enforcement or biases in the criminal justice system. I totally get it. But being angry about it is not how you're going to change it. Being angry might motivate you, but we need to learn about it. We need to look for these examples and say, what went wrong here? How do we fix it?
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to learn about these cases. So I'm trying to break it down for them in a non-emotional way. And some of them can't get there. So that's where there could be a breakdown sometimes. I don't fault them for it, but you can't have a discussion if it's going to be fueled by emotion. You have to be able to look at something and break it down and then, process it.
Wow. Great stuff. Hey, man, I want to thank you for coming on for the half hour with Ken and talking about this the best we could. This is what we do here on the booth, and I am so proud to have you guys be able to come on when we have topics of this sort. So thank you.
Stay
again.
well. We'll see you soon. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Yeah, you got to hit me up when you see Godzilla vs. Kong. I'm not going to ruin it for you.
I will. All right.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here with more booth after this.
Didn't want to come to work today. No PTO, so I showed up. My boss full of mind games and things. I wish you would grow up. My boss is a hoe. That's about how I feel. 40 hours, listen to this mother. Just keeping it so real. But you can't be thinking about those things that will slow your game, make you deranged. So you gotta do you, only you can change. When it's time to celebrate.
Hi, my name is Al. I am a father and I have 2 kids. I also ride a motorcycle, so please check twice. Save a life.
Extraordinary clothing, local urban fashion wear for men, women, and children. Be sure to make your way here for Extraordinaire's winter blowout sale. As we get ready for spring, you can also receive 50% off of all furs and leathers in the store. So come and enjoy the experience and shop Estrada.
At AUDIOS, our engineers have created a breakthrough in wireless loudspeakers. We developed a new way to experience sound. AUDIOS, the future of loudspeakers.
Hi, I'm Erik Young, the co-founder and CEO of AUDIOS. and we're building the first fully wireless loudspeakers for venues and event spaces. With AUDIOS, all you have to do is place the speakers where you want them and press the power button. The speakers automatically build their own wireless network, connect to each other, and start streaming. That means you have 0 cables and 0 cable replacements. A 300-person event that would take 1 hour to set up only takes 10 minutes with AUDIOS. Our wireless speaker doesn't need Bluetooth or Wi-Fi router and has 2 patents granted. To learn more, go to republic.co/AUDIOS. For a limited time only, anyone can invest and become a part owner.
Hi, my name is Jennifer. I'm your neighbor from just down the street. I also ride a motorcycle, so please check twice. Save a life. Motorcycles are everywhere.
For more information on sharing the road, visit mass.gov/RMV.
This is Bianna Marie, and you're listening to Hoobazoo.com.
All right, your boy Since the One broadcasting live from the City of Champions back here in the booth, and I'm just putting my headphones away because I won't need those. Oh man, ooh, good stuff, great stuff. And let me just get myself back in here for you guys. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm here. I'm back here in the booth, broadcasting live for the City of Champions. And it's great stuff. Great stuff. Great show. Thank you, R Squared. Thank you, Ken Diesel. Thank you, all the guys, for coming on tonight, for helping me out with this show. And it's good stuff. And I'm just ready to get into this show and pretty much do what I got to do. Got to close it out. Michael Douglas Barretto is my sponsor. Michael Douglas Barretto, MDB Electronics. If I have my controller that's broken, send it out to him within 24, 48 hours. I'm good to go. I'm back in action and ready to do this. You know, I'm holding it down. I'm just, don't mind me. Like I said, I had my second COVID shot yesterday, so I'm a little sore. But I wanted to do this show tonight and get this going for you guys and roll on. So I got to thank my guest last week, Deborah Driggs, for coming on, former Playmate for Playboy. And Centerfold did a good show last week. Got to mention that. I got to thank Erik Young for coming on. Again, you got to get in before August 30th and make sure you put your $100 down. He's at $500,000 right now. He's got 514,000, I think, in investments. So you want to get in before April 30th, before it moves on to the big investors, and get in on it. Also, my sponsors, rebelrom.com. Check out my cousin's clothing website at www.rebelrom.com. You guys saw some pictures of us at the range last week, tacticaltargetsystems.com. You want to head over there and pick up some zombie targets. As you guys saw, my son and his girlfriend went to the range with us, Brianna, and she went, you know, shooting for the first time down at the Boston Gun and Rod Club in Boston on Faulkner Street, and straight bullseyes. So I'm adding her to my zombie apocalypse crew. I don't care. Anybody who can blow off headshots at 50 yards or blow off bullseyes, look, my squad's getting deep. So if the zombie apocalypse does happen, I'm ready to go. Viana Marie, all of her music is on all streaming platforms worldwide. Check her out. Just search hashtag Viana Marie. Everything will come up. And make sure to visit her website at www.vianamarie.com, who is also an ambassador for Estrada Boston, Estrada and their clothing line. You want to check them out. They're popping up all over the place. They've got locations in South Shore Plaza, opened up another one on Blue Hill Ave. I think he's got 5 altogether. He's going to actually be coming on the show, Brandon Grinds. He's going to be coming on and hanging out with us. But we also got a music video in Are You Serious segment that features Viana Marie and myself in this video with Dawn Hazel. So stick around because it's definitely going to be showing this video for you guys. Heading into my news booth, COVID canceled. The Brockton Fair has been canceled. Second year in a row due to COVID. A lot of people are unhappy, pissed off. It's like, look, I know everybody's getting vaccinated, but, they still want to be careful. I still think July 4th, a lot of things are going to be lax. We're going to be able to do a lot of stuff on July 4th. I think Memorial Day will still be locked down a little bit, but I think July 4th is going to be a good holiday. So it doesn't matter that we don't have the Brockton Fair. And in this second story, Plymouth canceled their 4th of July parade and fireworks for the second straight year. Look, you have to remember something, people. A lot of these events take a year or 6 months to plan for these events and get everything in order. So, to be honest, Plymouth is canceling their 4th of July parade and fireworks for second straight year due to COVID because you haven't been able to get your sponsorships. You haven't been able to get your event organizers or your anything that has to do with this event. You haven't really had the time because nobody was committing to anything months ago because we didn't know where we were going to be. So people, it's not an overreaction due to COVID. It's because COVID had caused these things, and that's one of the reasons why. What's going on, Kevin Jeffries? What's going on, Dave Haggerty in the chat? I see you. Viana Marie's in the chat. I see you. So that's kind of what's going on here with these cancellations. It's really not also because of COVID. It's because you couldn't get these vendors and all of these people here for this event. So, otters in the Georgia Zoo have tested positive for COVID-19. Otters have tested positive for COVID-19. Think about this, because we had tigers, we had other animals testing positive for COVID-19, and also, quietly, I saw a story about dogs and cats at vets now being vaccinated for COVID-19. So when all of these outbreaks were happening, what was the possibility of your animals bringing COVID into the house and getting the whole house infected? Because now we are vaccinating animals, and animals are now testing positive for COVID, which means it was... Don't even get me started. Let me keep going. Moving on. The government all of a sudden wants to be truthful with us. Why? I just don't know why. Right now, they want to confirm the authenticity of this latest video of this unidentified flying object, which was seen and recorded, and the government has now come out, the Pentagon is now calling it a UFO. The CDC adds zombies to their website, the zombie apocalypse to the website, the CDC. And now they are telling us, they're confirming authenticities of UFO. Look, 2020 and 2021 is a freaking movie. It is a movie for all of us right now. We've got aliens. We've got a pandemic. We've got racial social injustice. This is a real life movie right now, people. You couldn't write this script for these last 2 years. A racist president. Look. This is just crazy stuff. Moving on into the legal booth. Capitol police officer who shot Ashli Babbitt was a clean shoot. No charges. And I saw some people get on my page and talk about this and that. At the end of the day, she wasn't compliant. She was raiding the White House on an insurrection during a vote. She got shot. She was told to clear. She didn't clear. She tried to go through the window. She got shot. She died. She's military. She should have known better. You know what? I'm sorry she lost her life, but these are the things that happen. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. How many times have I heard that for every black man who's been killed by a police officer? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. The last 3 years, y'all been saying stuff like that. So this is what happens. Moving on. This is old news now. Derek Chauvin pled the fifth. Won't testify in his own defense. This was supposed to be a story covered, but now that we have the verdict, doesn't matter now. Found guilty. And in 6 weeks, we will know his fate. Court vindicates a black officer fired after stopping a colleague's chokehold. Carol Horn, who tried to stop an officer from applying a chokehold, was fired and fought this firing for 15 years. She won her case, and will get her, her back pay and all this stuff. A lot of people say 15 years is too long, and it is, but I'm glad that she's been vindicated. John Pentland has started a GoFundMe for legal fees, and automatically ended up changing because you can't ask for legal fees on GoFundMe. You can't. It's wrong. It's not right. Kevin Jeffries says the CDC is telling us something. You're damn right. 3 years ago is when they added the zombie apocalypse to the CDC as a joke on Halloween. They put it there as a joke, and then they made it official last year that this was a thing to really think about and plan for. They said they want to make sure everything's covered. Well, look, I'm getting covered. I'm getting my zombie apocalypse team together. Jonathan Pentland, if you don't know who this guy is, there was a video of a young man being harassed by another man in his neighborhood, a military neighborhood. Jonathan Pentland is in the military. He's an active guy. He stopped this young black man in his neighborhood, harassed him, put his hands on him, shoved him. Him and his wife, did all types of stuff to this man on video. And he went to jail. Jonathan Pentland went to jail. He's now filing a GoFundMe for legal fees and stuff. You can't ask for legal fees. So shame on you, John. Shame on you. You shouldn't have did that ish. You know what I'm saying? And you were drunk that you get the alcohol balls. You think you can push and shove around everybody. No, you can't. Sorry, John. So, lifetime OathKeeper member pled guilty in his actions in January 6th. This was one of the reasons why I said nobody showed up to the White Lives Matter rallies last weekend that were all planned, because a lot of these people, they're getting the book thrown at them. Anybody who did shit on January 6th, that insurrection, they're getting the book thrown at them. They didn't cut no deals. See, right here, they didn't cut no deals with him. He pled guilty. Now he's going to serve his time, so I'm going to be paying attention and see what he gets for a sentence. I also heard that 2 of the Proud Boys today were found guilty. 2 of the Proud Boys who were there were found guilty. So they're going to be getting the book probably thrown at them. If you guys remember the guy with the mask and the painting all over his face, he's still in jail. He was denied bail. He's still in there and he's crying. He's getting his vegan food while he's in there, but he's still locked up. So, see about that. Ken Potter, we already broke this down with Ken and R Squared, second degree manslaughter in the Daunte Wright case. She's the one who accidentally pulled her service revolver instead of pulling her taser out. And as I said, a lot of people are crying BS on that one, but we will see, because she's going to go to court, plead her case, but she's being charged with second degree manslaughter. So we'll see. All eyes on this one. Capitol officer who died after riot suffers 2 strokes, officials say. I got to give a big shout out to Matty Palkus, who's always on our page. Matt Palkus jumped on our page. The first thing he did was he called our show and tried to discredit our show and called us liars, because when this story posted, they said that he might have sustained injuries. He might have died from the injuries he sustained during that attack on the insurrection. He was the officer that they pulled down and dragged his body down the steps. He was hit with a fire extinguisher and all of this stuff. And then he later died. And everybody was under the assumption that he died from his injuries and this and that. So Matt Palkus gets right on the Booth Facebook page and posts this story and tries to discredit us, calls us liars, and says he was right. The guy died of natural causes. Look, BS. First of all, Matt, you didn't read the whole story, dumbass. If you read the whole story, Officer Sicknick died after suffering 2 strokes. The medical examiner said in the story, they can't prove the blunt force trauma. But there were other things that Brian Sicknick endured during that attack on him. He was sprayed with chemical mace in his face by these insurrectionists. He was beat up. When they watched the video, you can't say, and this is what the medical examiner says, you can't pinpoint what caused these strokes to this man. You don't know. And I understand this in full. We don't know if it was him being hit with the fire extinguisher. We don't know if he had an allergic reaction to the chemical spray. But the medical examiner damn well did say in his comments that what he endured is probably the reason as to why he had these strokes and died. So when you come on my Facebook page, Matt, to try to discredit us and call us liars, read the effing story all the way through. Don't take the title of the story and then try to come at us like you know something, because you don't know something. Read it. Read it, because I'm a ninja with knowledge. I'm not going to sit here and let you come on here and try to play me, because you're not going to play me, Matt. And the fact that you come on here and you try to discredit a police officer, death of a police officer, and try to say, oh, it's lies, he died of natural causes. You know how stupid you sound trying to defend the insurrectionists who dragged this cop down the stairs and beat him up and sprayed him with mace and hit him with a fire extinguisher? Are you really trying to justify the actions of those idiots? Get the F out of here. You want to come on my page real quick to defend people as such. So only time you come on our page, bro. Stop it. Once again, Matt, stop it. I'm a ninja with knowledge. Every time you come for my neck, I'm breaking your blade. Next time when you come with this BS on our page, read it. Riff. Reading is fundamental. Read it in full. Then you would know what the medical examiner said about Brian Sicknick and the strokes and his death. Don't come at me with this BS on my page again, because you're going to lose every time. Okay, Matt? We're going to leave it at that. Moving into the entertainment booth, Alma Wahlberg, mother of Mark and Donnie, passed away, 78. For those of you who watch Wahlburgers, saw Alma. She's very responsible for these boys. As you guys saw on this show, when I interviewed Goonie, I interviewed Goonie Goo, and Goonie Goo let us know on this show that's something that nobody else knew. And he said that he owes his rap career to Mark Wahlberg. Goonie Goo said back in the day when he was just starting out, just coming up, he was chilling with Mark, and Mark was giving him advice, and he was at the house. So I would love to see Goonie Goo and see if he had posted anything about Alma Wahlberg, who passed away at 78 years old. Vianna Marie in the chat says, Matt, you sound mad corny. Are you kidding me right now? It doesn't matter what a racist medical examiner says. The bottom line is, if he hadn't been hitting, he wouldn't be dead right now. No, the medical examiner isn't racist. The medical examiner's job is to prove that, what caused the stroke. And he's saying that there's multiple things that happened to Brian Sicknick during an attack that could have caused the stroke. So, in other words, right now, the 2 people that are charged are the people that hit him with the fire extinguisher. But what the medical examiner is trying to say is that the people who sprayed the mace in his face that weren't charged, they could have also caused this death because he could have had an allergic reaction. So I understand where the medical examiner is coming from. He needs to be able to pinpoint what caused it, and I get it. The medical examiner is not racist. He's just doing his job as to pinpointing what caused the strokes that led to the death. So I get it. I get what he's saying, and I feel for the medical examiner who had to do this report, and which is why he made the comment that he made. And that was, if Brian Sicknick didn't go through this, he would be alive today. So maybe what should have happened is they should have charged everybody who put their hands on Brian Sicknick. Maybe that's where they messed up. They only grabbed the 2 people with the fire extinguisher because that was the most explicit act of violence in that video that we saw. So that's why. So we'll see. I'm going to keep my eyes definitely on that story. Rest in peace, Black Rob. 52 years old. One of the hottest tracks of all time. Whoa. Passed away the week after we lost DMX. This has just been tough. So rest in peace to Black Rob. Man, tough stuff. Also in the entertainment booth, the Fast 9 trailer dropped, but your boy Sinister One, I'm not going to lie, I'm 2 movies behind. Fast 9's coming out, they released the trailer, but I haven't seen 8 or 7 yet. So I got to get my ass in gear and see 8 and 7 to be caught up on this one. It just was getting out of hand for me, I guess is what you could say. Is that what I could say? It was just kind of getting far-fetched. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. The stunts, the stuff was just getting really crazy with the Fast 9 series, you know. But I'll jump back in because this trailer looks good, and they got John Cena. So I don't get this. John Cena is playing the brother of Vin Diesel. Now we all know Vin Diesel is mixed, and him and John Cena don't look like brothers at all. But I'll take it. But for me, John Cena's acting is horrible. I'm sorry, I gotta say it. John Cena has landed some great ass roles. He's in the new Suicide Squad. He is now gonna be in Fast and the Furious 9, the Fast Saga. But for me, John Cena is a horrible actor. What's up, Solomon Clark? What's up, boy? In the chat. Good stuff. What I'm going to do here, hey guys, I'm going to show you this trailer real quick, the Fast 9 Saga. And here's the trailer right now.
The world has a way of changing. And we change too.
I know some people, they would die for me.
There are moments that separate us.
They're my family.
But we always come back together.
We heard y'all needed a little love out here.
Y'all ever thought about the wild missions we've been on? We've taken out planes, trains, tanks. I'm not going to even think about the submarine. And now we got cars flying in the air? Who is he?
Jacob is Dom's brother.
Been a long time, Dom.
Little brother.
You always say never turn your back on family, but you turned your back on me. Now your little family is in my world.
Are you ready?
Whatever's on you,
Is you ready?
it's on us.
Are you ready?
He's got his own private army. We need help.
Bring what you got.
Bring what you got. Bring what you got.
No way.
Is you ready? Whole squad ready.
So how do y'all want to play this?
Fast.
We going on. We going on. Whole squad ready. Ready.
Okay, this is a bad time to mention this, but I don't drive.
Brother against brother. This should be interesting. But could you kill him? Get the e-brake for me, would you, darling?
Crank it all the way up.
We the soldiers. Man, we messing with magnets now? Woke to wake up. Whoa. Came front. And everything we gave up. Even when we die, we raise up. Yeah!
It's good to be back.
We got no white flag and no treaty. We got the product. We got the tools. We supposed to stop that? Hold on! We going wild. We on the loose. People is blind. We are the truth.
Yes!
I spent my entire life in your shadow. And now, you spend the rest of yours living in mine.
We going wild. We on the loose.
Not today.
We are the
Really? Duct tape? You acting like we on our way to Home Depot.
Hunter! No, Ted! Ah! I don't want to die!
I gave you 10 years to live your life. Now you see me rise. And where did that get you? You walked in my shadow. I trained you. The most dangerous people in the world couldn't kill you. Son, it's time for you to take your place by my side. You better watch out, 'cause it's my time. The power in this soul mine.
That's not going to happen.
Where would you say come alive? You can't outrun who you really are.
Who are you?
Bugger.
Hold on, everybody!
We make a good team.
And I threw a little extra in there. That is Shang-Chi, Legend of the Ten Rings. And if you guys don't know what Marvel comic that is actually the Master of Kung Fu comic, which was very popular in the 70s and 80s. That comic was right up there with Iron Fist. And now to see that brought to the MCU is great stuff. So, again, I wanted to throw that in here. Shang-Chi trailer, the Fast 9 trailer. And got to move on. Moving on into the sports booth. Last year's comeback quarterback of the year, Alex Smith. Actually, he was the comeback player of the year. Quarterback Alex Smith held down the Washington Redskins. He was going to head over to Kansas City and be a backup over there, but it looks like he's not going to be playing this year. After 16 seasons, Alex Smith is calling it quits. He's going to retire right alongside Julian Edelman. It was a great story, a great way to end his career. That performance that he made this year with the Redskins was just great. So want to make sure we give props to Alex Smith and bless him on his journey as he heads into retirement. Also in the sports booth, Antron Pippen, son of Scotty, died at age 33. The reasons behind his death has not been released yet as of the time that I posted the story, so I don't know what's going on here with that, but there's no reason why a parent should bury their child. It's just a sad story, so our prayers go out to Scottie Pippen and his family in the death of his son. Moving into the Biden bombshells, NASA Ingenuity Mars helicopter took flight and succeeded. It was great. I watched it yesterday live, and it was they got it up in the air high enough. As you can see right here, this picture was the shadow, and they started broadcasting video back from Mars, and it looked pretty weird, because we knew of Mars as being the angry red planet, supposedly red dust and all this stuff, and it actually wasn't red. It was brown from what we see. The sky looked kind of weird. There were some people in the NASA chat saying that it was fake footage. Somebody said that the helicopter was actually somewhere in the desert in Utah. Look, this is great stuff that's going on. And even though I was very critical of President Donald Trump, I got to give him props on this one, because President Trump, when he did get into office that first year, halfway in, one of the first things he did was he dropped a lot of money back into the NASA space program, which is something that's been slacking for a very, very long time. So I got to give props where credit is due to Donald Trump for putting that money back into NASA. Moving on into the Biden bombshells, Biden decides to continue putting money into NASA, and he has just approved $24.7 billion for the NASA budget in 2022, which is great stuff, because guys like Elon Musk and I forget who the other gentleman is, they are both putting their private funds into the space race, and they are trying to get their own transportation rockets and stuff going. So when we do start to get on these planets, so one of the things that Biden wants, he wants us to go back to the moon, and do some exploration up there as far as habitat type stuff. So I'm going to keep an eye on that. If you guys feel interested in this, jump on the NASA.com website, follow them on Twitter, follow them on TikTok. NASA puts a lot of great videos out there. I know for some it's boring, but for me, I'm a geek. I love it. I love when they go live and you see these things happening. And this footage that's coming back from Mars is just, it's incredible. It's just great stuff. It sends a chill up my body, just being able to see this stuff. And I always go back to that scene in Transformers when they send the rover up and they go to a planet and one of the Decepticons attack the camera, and it just cracks me up. So aliens and zombie apocalypse, that's one of my big things. So it's good stuff though. Also in Biden bombshells, the U.S. is going to sanction Russia for their interference in this election, the 2020 election, and interference in hacking. So we're going to see what's going to happen here with these sanctions. I'm pretty sure it doesn't help with the fact that Putin 2 weeks ago signed himself back as being president for another 2 years, and the person who was trying to go up against Putin is on their deathbed for a second time. Like I said, 2020, 2021, you can't write a script better than this. This is unbelievable stuff. But yes, they will be sanctioning Russia. We're going to have to pay attention and see how these sanctions are going to go down against Russia for their interference. They're already, they have sanctions against them for what they did in 2016. So it's going to be real interesting. I think the sanctions should be, the penalty should be a lot worse. I think it should be like a double jeopardy type thing. So we'll see. Biden's in control this time. We'll see what they have to do and how they sanction Russia in this interference. And we'll go from there. Before we get out of here and get into the Are You Serious segment, which is going to show the music video from Brandon Grimes. And Quiet in the Trap is the name of the video, but I'm actually going to be trying to get him on the show sometime in May. But as you guys can see, the Sinister One Production beanies right here. I got to thank everybody for purchasing a beanie and hanging out. I appreciate you. We all appreciate you. And great stuff here as I go through these guys showing off their beanies. My brother actually posted a post of all his beanies. He's a big beanie fan now, so he posted all of his beanies, and he had a picture of my beanie in there. But I want to thank everybody who's been out there holding it down and buying these beanies. Also, don't forget Oscar Mike Radio, Matty C Sports for You and Me, and Happy Hour with Lito. 3 podcasts that I associate with heavily and help these guys co-produce and get their stuff going. Travis is actually trying to hook up with me. It's been 5 years. 5 years ago, Travis walked up to me at a convention and talked about getting a podcast going. He had this idea for a veterans podcast. We locked it down. I told him we would have him on within a month. Within a month, we had Oscar Mike Radio on. I coached him through how to host and do what he needed to do. And Travis is now 5 years strong. He's got sponsors. He's got merchandise. So kudos to him. Matty C Sports for You and Me. Good stuff for him. You want to check him out. He has a replay of his show tonight with Jeff Silver from Deadliest Catch, Bloodline, which is probably the first time that I got that whole thing right. Booyah! For me. And check it out. Also, make sure to, we got some stuff coming up. We got an event on April 30th. Viana Marie is performing at the VFW in Fall River. Murder the Mic, and it's the female edition. It's going to be all women performing at this event. It is at the Fall River VFW, usual spot that we're usually at on April 30th. I believe doors usually open at 7 a.m. The event goes till 1, maybe 2 in the morning, so you want to make sure you head down there. Check out her music and stuff. What we're going to do here, we're going to get ready to get into this music video that features Viana Marie and Dawn Hazel and myself. You guys saw the pictures that I had posted of us shooting this video. We actually really had a good time. It was actually a pretty good time. 80s, 90s throwback we was at last Saturday night. It was thrown at the Platinum Gaming Center. Vanessa Late and Danger through this event. I was able to see Ollie Spears there and hang out. They had Platinum City Gaming is a great place. It has old school games and stuff. Held it down. Some of the pictures are on the booth Facebook page. And I know I have some pictures on my personal page. Viana Marie has some on her page. Everybody has it all over their Instagram. So you want to go check these pictures out. And it was a good time. It was a good time. Can't wait to see their next event. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to let you guys see this video. Quiet in the Trap featuring Brandon Grimes, Viana Marie, Dawn Hazel, and myself. And then SpongeBob, you're going to do us a favor and take us home after this video. I'm out of here. I got to go take some ibuprofen for my sore arm and stuff after this. Peace.
I want to get this
I want this Brandon Grimes. Now, you fucking asshole.
Got the cooler key, your leg on my neck. Get your fucking leg off my neck, nigga. Bet y'all motherfuckers ain't even got no warrant coming up in this bitch. Fuck your ass. Got you, motherfucking asshole. Get the fuck out of here. Give me some beef. Fuck.
Well, see you next Tuesday.
Thank you for listening to The Booth on Hoobazoo and HatcherRadio.com. Please follow the Facebook page and subscribe to the podcast at Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. The Booth is a Sinister One production hosted by Sinister One.
I've got to start hanging out with friends that are a little more intelligent and understand politics and stuff. It's just that I'm up on this level up here, and all my friends are down here. Me, nah. You guys, nah. Maybe a little more down in here. Screw you guys, I'm going home.
I smoke, I drink, I do my thing. These bitches hating, so you know I got to make it plain. Don't do cocaine, but your chick, my main. We stick together, true forever, yeah, you know we bang. I miss those days, which was easy. If only I make it, bitch, don't repeat. Now that I done upgraded, I've been upstate, but y'all think I'm playing. And I got a hit now for these weak assholes who think I ain't slaying. Try me, and I'll probably end up laughing, cause I never back down. I'm that chick with a clean ass whip, I don't need that shit, I got my own now. I get hurt, I get tired of fussing, fighting, guess I gotta crack down. Don't mess with me, cause on everything, I'ma have to bring the whole city out.
WHOOBAZOO, that's Hoobazoo.com.
Enter website.